This is The Sports Life.
Fouls under center. Takes a handoff, stands in the pocket. There you go. Fires near the left pylon. Catch is made on the run. Montori Foster. Touchdown, MSU.
And they're going quick again. Here's the snap. And Rourke out to the sideline. Touchdown! Miles Price with the reception for the score.
And welcome into the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, some exciting moments from the Big Ten last week. George Blaha talking about a guy, Montori Foster, wide receiver for the Spartans, just kind of stuck around. Now he has a string of 19 straight games where he's caught a pass. And Don Fisher must think he's in heaven. He, at Indiana, has called more wins, I think, this year than he has in the last handful of years combined. Well, welcome into our show. We got a good one lined up for you. One of the things I think you're really going to enjoy is our visit with Todd Duckett, as he talks about a fundraiser. He talks about helping people. He talks about the Ronald McDonald House. And I think that is something worth listening to. And I've often thought, as I've listened to this, is there a dry eye when you're done? Maybe not.
No, that's a fair point. And it's also not the only do-good initiative we're going to be talking about here on this show, because the Big Ten Conference in Abbott have partnered up for what is a really important issue. There is a national shortage of blood in the country right now, and so they're partnering to raise money and make it into a Big Ten fan competition. We're going to be learning a little bit more about that later on, and also we're going to be speaking with the acting president and CEO of the FBS Athletics Directors Association, that being Heather Lyke, as we kind of go through the landscape of college athletics, all the ups and downs through a couple of different perspectives, and that's going to be real informative as well.
Well, sounds of the week.
Sounds of the week. Let's go ahead and start off with, you heard Michigan State and the touchdown to Montori Foster just a couple of moments ago. They beat Iowa 32-20, and you're thinking to yourself, 32 points. That's a lot of scoring. A lot of touchdowns in there, right? Wrong. It's a lot of field goals. That's how Michigan State got to 32. They set a new school record on the foot of Jonathan Kim as he split the uprights 6 times in this game. Let's listen to each one of those 6 field goals called on the radio broadcast by George Blaha, and we'll hear from Jonathan Kim afterwards as well.
Here's the snap, the put down, the kick is on the way, and the kick is good. And Jonathan Kim will try another field goal, and this one's high, far, and deep, and it's good. The kick is up, and the kick is good. Perfect snap and a put down, and the boot is up, and it's perfect. The snap, the put down, and the kick is on the way. And over, and
got it.
It's good! This would be his 6th field goal of the game. The ball's at the 36, 46-yard try. On the way for Jonathan Kim, and he hits it! He sets a Spartan record as he drills a field goal.
You know, last year was my first year kicking field goals, so I just had to get used to it a little bit. And now I just feel like I'm firing on all cylinders. You know, God has just really given me a lot of peace. And I just really feel like this is where he has placed me. And so it's really just him working through me.
And think about this. Jonathan Kim came from North Carolina to Michigan State. Spartans desperately needed a place kicker. In Carolina, they didn't have room for him. He kicked off, but they said, we don't need you to be a place kicker. He's one of the best in the nation. Must be great to be a Tar Heel. You have all these place kickers roaming around. But it's just pretty amazing what he's been able to accomplish. 15 of 16 on the year.
It's simply amazing. He's having a wonderful year, and award watch list midseason, start paying attention, because that name is going to be on the Lou Groza one for sure. If we move elsewhere in the Big Ten Conference, look, I think the biggest outcome from this past weekend has to be what transpired between Nebraska and Indiana. Heading into it, I think some people would have an opinion Indiana would win. Some people might feel different. I don't think anybody saw coming a 56-7 shellacking from the Hoosiers on the Huskers. And now where do you go from here? Nebraska head coach Matt Rule spoke about that this week as Nebraska has to try and bounce back.
I think if you have the right team, the right group of men in the room, and you know, if anything, 56-7 should snap you back to reality, right? Like, it's again, you know, it's like, you know, we had some success defensively the last game, and all of a sudden, you know, I'm more worried about success leading to complacency than I do about coming back from something hard. I mean, you go back and watch the tape now. If you watch the coach's tape, there's 2 or 3 times we should have sacked guys. So the guys that were like all over the news interviews and all over Twitter talking about how many sacks they have, or they didn't show up in that game, right? So to me, I'm worried about complacency. And I really trust our players. I think our players just have to settle down and go back to the drawing board. You have a bunch of veteran players who, we've had a couple opportunities to get to these big moments, and we've gotten there. It's just kind of fallen a little bit flat, right? So last year, Michigan, right? And then we rebound from that, right? And then we get ourselves to 5-3, and then we just can't quite get over the hump. And then here we are. Colorado, to me, was a breakthrough, right? Like, hey, a big moment, and we went and played it. And then, Illinois has proven to be a pretty good team, right? They just beat Michigan on the road, but that was a good game back and forth. But we got to overtime, and it just kind of looked like that game, right? And now here we are on the road against Indiana, a team I felt we were prepared for, and it fell flat. So part of my job is getting us to, not fall flat, right? I'm not saying we were flat. I'm saying the effort falling flat. But I don't worry about our guys not competing. I really honestly don't. That's the least of my worries. I don't.
Well, when it comes to competing, they're really going to have to compete because they're going into Columbus to play Ohio State. And if you're looking for a bounce-back game, maybe they should just skip this one.
You're right. Yeah, Ohio State's usually not the rebounding team that you necessarily want to see next. But honestly, I mean, look, like we were talking about, we expected a pretty competitive game, I think, collectively between Nebraska and Indiana. For it to be that lopsided, I think you want to see a competitive effort in that game against Ohio State, and we'll see if the Huskers can provide that. But speaking of the Hoosiers, we've talked a lot about Curt Cignetti and this magical start that he's had to his tenure as the head Hoosier there for Indiana football. One of the linebackers, Aiden Fisher, who actually Curt Cignetti had recruited while he was at James Madison, and he started at JMU with head coach Curt Cignetti, was talking on the Big Ten Network about meeting Curt and what that visit was like and how everything has developed since then.
That was at James Madison. Me and my mom took a visit in the summer. And you tour the campus, you go around with the position coaches, the people that recruit you initially. Then you get brought into his office. So initially going into it, it's a pretty serious setting. He'll kind of sit there, kind of set like a mood of pretty serious. Let's talk business. Let's talk football. But then he'll talk about, the development that he sees for you, the role that he sees you playing in his program. And, since then, I was committed to him basically right there on the spot. And, it's been great to see those things that he talked about happened in each step that he talked about. It's kind of come true here and continue here at Indiana.
Well, he said he wins, and he has been winning.
Google him.
That's good, Dalton. That's good. So how good was that James Madison team? He's got a bunch of those guys.
Yeah, that's a really good question because maybe last year's JMU could have been competing in the middle of the pack of the Big Ten Conference. It's something to see what has happened in Bloomington, Indiana. But speaking of some big games coming up this weekend, there's a top 20 battle in Big Ten football out at Autzen Stadium in Eugene, Oregon. It'll be number 20 Illinois taking on number 1 Oregon. Oregon head coach Dan Lanning talked a little bit this week about the Illini and head coach Brett Bielema and has a lot of respect and praise to share with the Illini side.
They've already, started attacking this week. You had an opportunity to play a really good team. Coach Bielema's done an unbelievable job there at Illinois. He's a guy that I've followed throughout my career, even back to his days when he was at Iowa and Kansas State and Wisconsin as a young defensive coach. And then what he's been able to do there at Illinois is really impressive. I've always felt like watching his teams, they have a clear identity. They don't beat themselves. They play really hard. They're physical. I think all those things show up with this team as well. They're playing really good football right now. So certainly a fun challenge for us. And again, expecting our fans to make an impact on this game, make our environment really special like they have all season. I think that'll be a benefit to us as we step out on the field on Saturday.
Well, there's no doubt that that's a great home field venue for Oregon. But they're not invincible. Mm-hmm. And the formula, I think, Dalton, is kind of easy. Illinois is going to have to play a perfect game.
Yeah. No, I think
at the end of the day, no turnovers, don't get in the red zone and kick field goals. I mean, the basic stuff you always hear, but in this case, it's reality.
The margin is small, but that doesn't mean there isn't a possibility.
But if you ever go out there, one of the greatest moments is before they ever kick off. We've all seen coaches lead the team out of the tunnel and fireworks and all that. In Oregon, the Duck, their mascot, is on a big motorcycle. He's tearing down the field, followed by the team. Now, that's pretty cool. And by the way, auto owners insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you. Back with more in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Every kid deserves a chance to feel safe, to have their own bed, to be loved and cared for. That's why I love my foster parents. They make me feel like part of the family.
Raise hope and foster dreams for one of 13,000 Michigan children in foster care. Visit michigan.gov/hope for a home or call 855-MICH-KIDS. That's 855-MICH-KIDS. Sponsored by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor?
Yes, I am.
Yay. My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, there's an organization we're going to talk about today. It's called the FBS, Athletics Directors Association. And joining us is the acting president and CEO, Heather Lyke. And Heather, thanks for joining us. But before we ask you our first question, I want to give folks listening a little background on what you've accomplished during your career. And if you look back at what she's done, from 1996 to 2013, she served as an assistant athletic director at both the University of Cincinnati and Ohio State University. And then she accepted her first athletic director's position at Eastern Michigan University, where she really moved that program forward. From 2013 to 2017, public donations increased by 51%. Eastern Michigan won 17 Mid-American Conference titles. And the football team even had a winning season and went to its first bowl game since 1987. Then from there, she was off to the University of Pittsburgh, where under her guidance, the football team claimed its first ACC championship, and the volleyball program reached its first ever NCAA Final Four. And Heather Lyke also played softball at the University of Michigan for legendary coach Carol Hutchins. So, Heather, welcome to our show. And I just thought maybe we could start off by talking about the group and what are you trying to accomplish?
Sure. Well, we have shifted, this new FBS Athletic Director Association. Obviously, we've changed the name from Lead One. And the focus is really on the 134 FBS athletic directors out there and what they need out of an association. And the primary mission and focus is really about being colleagues and not just simply competitors, and creating a platform and an opportunity for ADs to come together and talk, debate, discuss, and share ideas about the future of college sports and how they are managing these highly complex organizations in, obviously, an ever-changing landscape of college sports.
Well, ever-changing landscape seems to be the best way to put it, because I was thinking back, this group originated in 1986, so nearly 40 years ago this group started. And I imagine then, obviously, there's always been some sort of issues always in play with college athletics. But to now be in a spot where there's such a wide plethora of different things with revenue sharing, all these different topics that never were there before, how valuable is it to have this camaraderie and community of athletic directors to be on the same page?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because there's really only been 3 leaders of this organization ever. And when Dutch was leading it, it was so much, about professional development and that sort of thing. And then Tom took over and it became more focused on, DC and Congress and our, the role of our congressmen in college athletics. And so this now has shifted to, it is absolutely an opportunity for, instead of simply being competitors, because if all we do is compete against each other, it's a pretty shallow profession. But if we're here to help one another navigate, to strategize, to think about, hey, how are you doing this best? What is, everyone's adding a GM. Okay, what is your GM really doing? Where are you finding these people? What's their role? If we're really collaborating, then it's a bit the only way to get through this, evolution of college athletics, which, some of us love to embrace change. Some people don't. And so it's really about how we best help one another navigate this path. And I think it's invaluable, because otherwise you're on an island as an athletic director. And we're not all going to probably have ultimate consensus, and it's not about colluding and things like that. It's really about supporting and sharing ideas and working together to come up with, best practices and what works best for people, and how people are trying to navigate the situations, because the competition is real no matter what, and it's either you're on an island or you're working together.
Well, Heather, there's no doubt when the discussion of NIL comes up, it's always basically the same thing. There aren't governing rules that affect everybody. And here's my question. I often thought one of the problems was there's a group of people like what you're representing, the majority, I'm sure, look at the universal good of intercollegiate athletics, individual sports, and there's also a group that could care less about any of that than just care about their universe. How do you bring these people together to get some sanity back into this?
Right. Well, so when I think the whole goal, and we challenged, I challenged the group in Washington, D.C. in September when we were all together, hey, what do you want out of this organization? Because if you just want, simply, everyone to live on their own island and to be isolated, then it's going to be a pretty lonely profession. And so the goal, it really came from the ADs out there, right? Because, they are all trying to figure out the next best steps, figure out, okay, how are we really going to go into revenue sharing? How does Title IX impact, the House settlement? What is everybody thinking and planning and organizing? And so it really came from their thoughts. And And I will tell you, one AD, interestingly, shared a story. I don't know if we have time for a quick story, but he shared a story about when he became an AD 20 years ago. He came to this meeting, and he didn't know anybody. He was a former baseball coach and suddenly became the AD, and came to the meeting, didn't know a soul. And one AD grabbed him and just said, hey, we want to grab coffee tomorrow morning, and struck up a friendship and mentored this guy for the next 20 years. And when they went back to their respective campuses, this guy reached out, stayed in touch, stayed connected. And this AD said, that man was Jeremy Foley. And Jeremy Foley was the former, longtime, very successful, very beloved AD at the University of Florida, and first-class gentleman. And so I think I challenged the group to say, first of all, we're always going to remember that story about Jeremy Foley and how he reached out to a colleague and helped them in their career. Secondly, who's the next Jeremy Foley? Because these jobs transition and change, and it's just not easy. And so you want to be there to support your colleagues. And so I think that story resonated with everybody, and we realize what a challenging time it is, and we're all trying to do what's best for student athletes and our respective institutions. And so that was really I think that story sort of sums up the theme of where this organization should head and will head.
Heather, you were recently an athletic director at Pittsburgh, and so if I shift your perspective from what you're currently doing to the role of all these people that you're helping, all these athletic directors, is the biggest issue currently facing them the revenue sharing and trying to figure out how to drum up $22 million for some of these athletic departments, or is there an issue that even supersedes that?
Well, that is the most prominent issue, but it's not an isolated issue. So just how do we drum up $22 million? It's a bigger picture issue. How does this decision to fund or not fund, or at what level to fund the House settlement and the revenue sharing, and then how is that sustainable, right? And so it's a big picture issue with your university. And how are you planning to manage this moving forward, number one? How are you going to do it in compliance with Title IX, number two? And then, just really the absolute logistics of it, too. All of a sudden now there's no national letter of intent. There's no, quote, scholarship. Okay, what are all these agreements going to look like? And, just the real execution of it. So it's a very big picture philosophical challenge with the House settlement, the finances of it, how that impacts your overall campus, how you can build a sustainable model, and then how you execute it.
Well, and Heather, I can't imagine there'd be another time in the history of college athletics where a group like what you're currently doing and commanding is more needed and more valuable than when it currently is right now with all the issues that face athletic directors. And going off the perspective of an AD, as we said, you were at Pittsburgh recently. Can you take us through, because the last 4 years, that's when NIL started. And since then, the amount of issues that have popped up outside of NIL, other things, it's been a really busy 4 years for athletic directors. Can you kind of give us like a bird's eye view of what a life as an AD is like right now?
Sure. Yeah. Sometimes we were joking off topic, but, maybe COVID was a better time, like what? We came out of COVID, and really it has been challenging. So I think the perspective of the life of an athletic director right now is I don't think we ever lose focus on the importance of our student athletes' experiences. I really don't. In spite of what all the other surrounding issues, the focus on each of our individual student athletes' experiences is important. It's why so many of us got into the profession, whether we were former student athletes, we coached, whatever. It is a priority. Now, we have to manage that experience in a very complex world and industry. Your campus itself is a highly complex organization, and where your athletic department fits in that campus setting is important to manage. All the internal relationships you need to manage. I would say the biggest challenges that is the conglomeration of things. The transfer portal, just that alone is a monster, because the relationship, coaches who value relationships with student athletes, suddenly, is it about relationships or is it about buying players, And you want coaches to get in it for the right reasons, and you want them to stay in it for the right reasons. And I think that has been a test for a lot of coaches. And I know people think AD's jobs are hard, and they are. I think coaching right now is even that much more challenging, because why they got into it is changing. They will still manage those fundamental relationships with players, but all those external sources and forces have challenged their purpose and their goal. And obviously you see it with Tony Bennett this week. I think the transfer portal added to NIL, which, again, remember, NIL, when it first started, was external to the athletic department, right? Like, it wasn't even allowed to be a part of your university. And then, obviously, the different state regulations that got involved. We don't have a federal, we don't have federal legislation that really mandates what can happen. So everyone sort of built their own plane and started flying it. And that is, again, it's not supposed to be for recruiting. Well, that's solely what it was about, recruiting and retention. And so everyone had to adapt and evolve. And what some donors have no interest in NIL, no matter how important it is. It's not their priority. So you have to focus on, some of the donors that do prioritize it, and come up with creative ways to raise NIL. And so, it has been, I would say, I'm sure in my 30 years of working in college athletics, but I don't know that there's ever been this conglomeration of major issues facing college athletic directors.
Well, Heather, it's so great to talk to you, because we can identify the problems. That's the easy part. Talking to somebody that's enthusiastic about maybe finding solutions, that makes somebody feel good like me. So I appreciate you joining us, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Thank you so much. All the best to you all, and I appreciate you having me on.
Some of the thoughts of Heather Lyke, the FBS, Athletics Directors Association, acting president and CEO. Well, when we come back with more of the sports life, we're going to tug at your heartstrings. But first, a timeout.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
That ought to do it. Totally energy efficient.
Oh no, not again. This time, we're getting help.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the battle of energy efficiency improvements. In this corner, Mr. I can save money and do it on my own. And in this corner, Miss Let's Get It Done Right with some help. Fight! Or you could just go to avoidenergydrama.com. From sealing your home to helpful loan options, you'll find all the tips and tools you need to stop wasting energy and stay comfortable. Avoidenergydrama.com. Brought to you by Michigan Saves.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see. Depression won't show up on an eye chart, and you can't measure it on your bathroom scale. Sorting out a mental health concern is not something to attempt on your own. You won't find a bipolar disorder by looking at a thermometer. Like many other health conditions, help for mental illness takes professional diagnosis and treatment. Anxiety won't just go away under a stick-on bandage. So the sooner you seek treatment, the better. If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. Find out what to do. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support. That's samhsa.gov/support.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here, along with Dalton Shetler. Well, for a moment, we're going to take you back to 1974. And that's when the Ronald McDonald House program began. And it was an initiative that was started by Philadelphia Eagle tight end Fred Hill. You see, Fred's 3-year-old daughter, Kim, was diagnosed in 1974 with leukemia. And not wanting to leave Kim alone, Fred and his wife, Fran, slept on hospital chairs and ate food from vending machines. Now, during this time, the Hills also noticed other parents doing the same thing. And they also discovered that many of their parents had traveled great distances and could not afford the high cost of hotel rooms. So Fred rallied his teammates with the Philadelphia Eagles to raise funds to help support other families that were experiencing the same emotional and financial trauma that he and his wife were experiencing. Like we said, that was 1974. Moving forward, we now have another initiative. And again, it involves football, and in this case, Big Ten football. The initiative is called Battle for the Houses, and it centers around the Michigan State-Michigan football game. The ringleader of this fundraiser is former Michigan State running back Todd Duckett. And Todd, thanks for joining us. And I think maybe the best way to get going with this conversation is to ask you how this whole thing began.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thanks for having me. Go Green. It began kind of indirect. So back in 2011, when I really started to get involved with volunteering, giving, and serving, the Ronald McDonald House was in mid-Michigan, in Lansing, was one of the first places that we volunteered and actually had a chance to learn what it means to be a volunteer and get involved. And we could see the families coming and going, but, we were just a bunch of us, we were just, kids volunteering, didn't think much of it, just doing a good service. And then 10 years later, our youngest son was born with half a heart and had to end up having open heart surgery 2 days after he was born. And he ended up spending a lot, probably 5 extra weeks at the Mott Hospital in Ann Arbor. And during that time, my wife, she stayed at the Ronald McDonald House in Ann Arbor during that time. So we went from volunteering to actually utilizing the house and seeing how much it meant. And then this year we participated in Shamrock Shake. It was a fundraiser they had for Shamrock Shakes. And we were going to the hospital and giving Shamrock Shakes to the nurses. And we did that in East Lane, or we did that at Sparrow, and then we also did it at Mott. And out of that event, how come these organizations haven't had a fundraiser together? And then we started thinking about the game, and then we started thinking, can we put the Mid-Michigan House against the Ann Arbor House and this fun rivalry, this competition, and Battle for the Houses was born in that moment. And once both houses were on board, reached out to Mike Martin and told him what was going on. And we've been friends for many, many years anyway. And it was just a perfect fit. Everybody jumped in, and since it's been an awesome fundraiser for us and for the Ronald McDonald House charities.
Todd, I don't want to take this interview to a dark place, but in trying to read and get information, your youngest son, did he make it through those surgeries?
Yes. He had one 2 days after his surgery, or after he was born. Then he ended up having another one about 2 or 3 months after that. And then he's scheduled for a third one in about 2 years or so, just depending on how things go between now and then. So, yeah, right now he's amazing. He's thriving. He's happy. He's just starting to walk. And if you didn't see the scars on his chest or know the backstory, you would have no idea what he's been through so far.
That is amazing, and thank God for it. Yes. But, Todd, it's amazing, too, because you talk about years ago, you used to just volunteer at this place, and it's a different kind of experience and perspective. But to undergo what you and your family did with this whole experience, how did that maybe change things for you, and how did it maybe put into action where you said, you know what, I need to get involved and help out in some way? How did this inspire and transform you?
Yeah, it was, it still does every single day. But there was a time when during the ultrasound in the beginning before he was born, they asked us did we want to even continue with the pregnancy, and it was a shock. That's not what you expect when you go in and get your ultrasound. You're expecting that he's this big, he's this size, this is how many weeks he is, and then have that question really threw my wife and myself for a loop, like what? And then you fast forward to him being born, and then the being able to go to the house, Ronald McDonald House, and just escape for a minute, take a shower, just walk away and take some deep breaths. And then to go back and, jump back in the fire, wait to see what the doctors have to say, wait to see how he does coming out of surgery. And it really took volunteering and giving and serving for me to a different level. It's different when you do it out of just wanting to give back, out of fun, out of enjoying the benefits of giving and serving. It's different when you do it then compared to when it's actually your life and you're actually, giving and serving. You're just trying to take care of your family. You're just trying to make sure everybody's good. And, you even got, I have 4 other kids, and they're like, so where's X at? How come X isn't at home yet? And so they're asking questions. And it really was an amazing, humbling, it's just a wild experience. And like I said, right now he's walking. So it's a blessing. Yeah, it's a blessing. It still gets to me, you see. It's still tough, but we're truly blessed. There are some amazing families. There are some amazing families that utilize the house. There are some amazing people that run the house, and I am thankful. I'm just thankful that they're there. Yeah. Sorry about this. I'm kind of a little emotional still.
It's only your son and your family.
But it's not just mine. This is everybody's. There's so many people who utilize this house, and there's so many people who, I have 5 kids total, and the first 4, there was no issues. You go through the process, you go through the ultrasounds, you go to the hospital, the child's born, and you're home in a day or two, and then you just go through that. But there are families who, their child may not come home for a month, 2 months, or ever, and that's every single day. And you don't think about that, and you don't understand what that does to families, and not just the parents, but the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, the kids. It's a huge thing that really life is a miracle, but some people have their miracles show up in different ways, and Ours, I mean, it wasn't expected, but I mean, here we are, and this young man has inspired Battle for the Houses. I mean, he's inspired opportunity for Michigan State football players to even come to the house and volunteer, to go to the hospital and volunteer. He's inspired this rivalry where, I mean, a lot of times they call this hate week, where you're playing against a guy. But in this hate week, this young man has inspired love to happen between two schools, showing you that the game, it's bigger than the game. Yeah, we're going to go. We're going to play. One team's going to win. There's going to be bragging rights for 365 years or 65 days. But the things that happen off the field that this Battle for the House's charity has inspired, I mean, this goes way beyond the white lines. And, it's very, very powerful for me. It's very impactful for me. And it's like I say, your miracles and your blessings may not come the way you think they do. And it's been an awesome opportunity for us to grow closer as a family, for us to even grow closer as either a Spartan family or a Wolverine family. It's a chance for us to really look at the opportunity, the privilege that we have, the stage that we have, and how can we give back to others in a way that will continue to grow, will continue to help change lives.
An amazing story from former MSU football great Todd Duckett. And by the way, if you would like to contribute, all you have to do is go to Battle for the Houses, and you'll find the page, and you can be part of this. And by the way, the goal this year was to raise $110,000. As we speak, they have surpassed that already. Back with more of the Sports Life in just a moment.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little? But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just...
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, Visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, global healthcare leader Abbott and the Big Ten have combined to have an initiative. It's called the We Give Blood Drive. And we have invited from Abbott to join us today to talk about this and explain it, Dr. Alex Carterson. And Alex, thanks for joining us. And maybe we can just begin our conversation by, how did this whole thing start?
So it really started from a lot of people coming together and saying, hey, we're here at Abbott. We have one of the world's leading blood screening solutions. How do we do more? We're really focused on giving back. We're focused on community health. And one of the biggest ways to really drive community health is through blood donation. I don't think people realize, every 2 seconds, somebody's needing a blood donation. And, we're based here in North Chicago, outside Chicago, in the Midwest. We have a lot of alumni that obviously go to Big Ten schools ranging from, Michigan State, Michigan, Wisconsin, the Ohio State, all that. And it seemed like a really natural way for us to get to a generation which maybe isn't the most forward thinking in terms of blood donation, but is one of the most giving and one of the most engaged to really help people and help communities. So it was really born out of that. And then, discussions with the Big Ten and things just rolled, and it was a natural partnership where they're very invested in their communities, their fans are invested in their communities, and it was just a great pairing between what Abbott was trying to do and what the Big Ten stands for.
Well, Alex, I do want to pause on the cause for a moment because you talk about it. There's a critical need at this point, and I want to get to that in a moment. But first, I want to explain for some of our listeners a little bit more about what this partnership is. Abbott and the Big Ten Conference have partnered to do this blood drive where, let's say a fan or an alum or whatever donates blood, they get 1 point put towards their school. And it's an 18-team wide blood drive race to see who comes away with the most, and $1 million will be granted to that school to put forward to community health and other things of that nature. The idea of this and what you're seeing so far in terms of a response, how many points people are getting, how many schools are really jumping into the fray, what are you seeing from a response there?
I mean, the response has been great. We're always looking to boost that response. So, across those 18 teams, some are forging ahead. Some probably need a little bit of motivation. But overall, I mean, we're sitting close to 5,000 lives saved, which is a huge amount for us just starting the campaign. And we're looking, and, thank you very much for having me on and driving awareness. We're looking to save as many lives as possible because, who needs blood is really touched by everybody. It's moms, it's dads, it's sisters, brothers, siblings, partners. There's really nobody that goes throughout their life without knowing or they themselves needing a blood transfusion.
Alex, I imagine a lot of our listeners have a wide variety and range of knowledge on medical things. I come in on the low end on the spectrum. I don't know a ton about this stuff. And you talk about that it's saved 5,000 lives already. You mentioned anybody can use it. So what all does blood really go for? I know that's a pretty general, wide question, but what all can it help? And I also want to ask you because from what I read, this is a national shortage that the profession, the industry, everybody's facing all together. And my question is, how serious is this?
Yeah, so we teamed up, Abbott and the Big Ten teamed up because it's really the biggest U.S. blood shortage we've seen in a generation. And in seeing that, we wanted to really motivate and engage that younger demographic of 19 to mid-20s, primarily because most blood donors in the U.S. are aging out. And I say that politely because, as you get older, I don't know about y'all, but, your bones start creaking. You start having little issues here, little issues there. And over time, that can accumulate where maybe you can't donate blood for your own health reasons. But, when we think about where blood is going, and to your primary question is, you've got your oncology patients which need blood and platelets. You have expected mothers. 1 out of 80 mothers are going to need blood post-childbirth. You have about 80% of deaths in the operating room and 50% of deaths in the first 24 hours after injury are because of severe blood loss. So there's a lot of people in our communities that need that blood. And I don't think people really realize blood has an expiration date. So you're looking at a product of when you give a red cell unit, you got 42 days that can sit on a shelf in order to save someone. But where we really start getting into issues is when you start talking about products and other blood products that, platelets have a 5-day shelf life, and that helps you clot. That helps you stop bleeding and traumatic blood loss. So that's why we say one product can save 3 lives, is because when you donate blood, it's getting split into different components, which is what we call each of the fractions. So you've got red blood cells as one component, platelets is another component, plasma is that third component, and that's all coming off of one of your donations. So each one of those is going to go into a person and potentially impact and save their life.
Well, Alex, if you want to be part of this and help out, where do you go?
That is really easy. It's the easiest, website in the world. It's big10.org/Abbott. And once you get on that website, you're going to find local donor centers near you, mobile blood drives that are coming around to you, and also ways that you can engage in just more general information about the program.
Alex, also a question to follow up on that. When does the blood drive officially end, this competition? When do people need to have it in by?
So the final date is December 6th, and that's when we're looking to have all the donations in and all that so that we can go ahead and make that announcement at the championship game.
Okay, well, Alex, it was great chatting with you. Good luck with this. We're all for you.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody gets out, rolls up their sleeves, and donates a pint, and let's go save some lives.
Well, sounds like a plan. Some of the thoughts of Dr. Alex Carterson from Abbott, talking about the We Give Blood Drive. When we come back, our parting shots in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
So I graduated last year and got a job. Sweet! But it got boring. I didn't really have a purpose. Then I started volunteering with Community Action. It's a statewide network with 29 agencies across Michigan. Community Action helps people with food, housing, utilities, childcare, senior services, you name it. I found my purpose, helping people, changing lives. Won't you join me? Call 1-855-MI-ACTION or go to MichiganCommunityAction.org. Sponsored by Michigan Community Action and Michigan Association of Broadcasters.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Anybody ready for a burger?
I'm State Fire Marshal Rich Schmiller, reminding everyone to think safety first when it comes to outdoor grilling, whether it's charcoal or gas. Never overload your grill with food. Excess fat and grease will create large flames. Grill outdoors and never inside or in a garage. Never leave a grill unattended and always keep a fire extinguisher nearby. For more tips on safe grilling, visit the Bureau of Fire Services website at michigan.gov/BFS.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Tiemann here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, we've had a different kind of show. We've talked about reform. We've talked about helping save people's lives. And it's a little different kind of show for us in some ways. But one thing that's consistent, Dalton, is our parting shots.
That's right. And hey, before we get into the parting shots, a quick reminder to everybody, if you missed any of the show, make sure you give us a follow on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, @SportsLifeNow is our name, @SportsLifeNow. Make sure you give us a follow, and you can see all the episodes and all the interviews posted there. But for my parting shot, I'm going to actually kind of go full circle back to the first sound we played with our Sounds of the Week, where we took a look at Michigan State football and Jonathan Kim's record of 6 field goals made against the Iowa Hawkeyes this last week. And listening to the press conferences from Big Ten coaches, heard Jonathan Smith kind of just offhanded label Jonathan Kim a weapon during this week's press conference, and I was thinking about it a little bit more, and then I stumbled across what I would consider to be our stat of the day. This comes from Ben Stevens on Twitter or X. So look, in all of FBS, as of now, there are 19 kickers who have attempted 15 or more field goals this season. All right? 19 of them. Of those 19, 5 kickers have made at least 85% of their field goal attempts. So we're down to just the best 5 in the country in terms of volume and percentage. Out of that pool of 5, there's only one, if we bump the percentage up to 90% or better, that is in that range by himself, and that is Sir Jonathan Kim of Michigan State football. So how about it? What we've learned so far this year, we're still figuring out, who's going to end up playing in the Big Ten title game, but we know Kim is him, and that's undebatable.
And the one he missed was from 55 yards. So it wasn't like he missed a chip shot.
It had the distance, too. Just was a bit off.
Yeah. Well, my parting shot goes to a release that was put out by Clemson. Well, their Board of Trustees has approved an athletic fee of $150 per semester for students starting in the next academic year. And they believe this will raise $7 to $8 million for the athletic department. And at rival South Carolina, they're charging $86 per semester in athletic fees. But I love this quote, Dalton, from Clemson. It says, these fees reflect the institution's commitment to a healthy and vibrant varsity athletic program and an investment in the student experience. According to who? And with that wraps up our show for this week. And as always, we appreciate everybody joining us. And we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcasts, like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. As always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler and assisted by Owen Cronin. Our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton Shetler, I'm Will Tiemann, and thanks for your time.